Hey, it's May 6th, and I'm here in the midst of COVID-19 still, trying to make a feature film happen, and I wanted to bring you up to speed. Not a lot has happened for me on the movie in the past couple of weeks. I've had a chance to do some more storyboards and do a little bit of beadwork on the lead character Daisy's cane. As you see, the handle comes off. I went ahead and started doing this a couple of nights ago. I've put in about 3 to 4 hours of work so far, and if you see, there's, I don't know, maybe a couple hundred beads. These are size 12 beads that are on there. I started off with first kind of getting where I wanted to do it, and then I have synthetic sinew that I use, and I tied off. You tie one around the edge, you tie it, tie a square knot, and then you leave another piece of that sinew that goes all the way through at the bottom. You hold that, and then you wrap it around really carefully. Try to keep the same level of the same side of the sinew all the way, and just go around and around and around, around until you get to where you're at the end of the space that you wanted to be, where you're going to throw your beads on, and then tie it off, cut it. And then I use a lighter to melt those pieces of sinew that are cut onto the end, and then actually lick my fingers, and then while they're still smoldering and smoking with a little flame, you quickly extinguish them out, but it allows them to kind of melt into the other synthetic sinew. So don't try that at home without supervision from an adult with a fire extinguisher. No. And then you just start. I have thread. I don't even know what kind this is. It's white something. Thread I ordered from somewhere. Beading thread. In fact, I'm gonna do a little bit with you, so I'll show you the process. The same process that you start. You want to get something, a piece of thread that you can go around numerous times on, but not too numerous, because you want to keep throughout your beadwork tying back into the sinew. Because if a piece breaks, you don't want the whole thing coming down, then maybe it's just a little section. And so I get a piece too. It's a piece that every time you pull a thread through, you don't want it so long that you can't get it through. You want it so it's easy length. And I do something probably about like that long. I usually will cut the thread too. You want to cut it at a 45-degree angle. Oops, not like that. So that when you have to thread it through the eye of a needle, it's a lot easier to do. I have a really skinny needle. I don't even know what size this is. It's like a little bit bendable and flexible that I use for these. One, it goes through the beads. Some of the different colors of beads have smaller openings, so a little thicker needle that I've used normally would use. It's breaking some beads, so I had to switch to more of like a size 14 bead needle, whatever that is. This is funny, me giving you a beading class, but I thought I might as well. This is the bee wax, and I'm putting it on this thread. It's going to give it a little bit of, I think it'll make it last a little bit longer, and I think I was taught that it would make it last longer. It's, you're putting on kind of waterproofing it a little bit and just making it, I don't know, I was just told to do that. So, and then threading a needle is never an easy thing. I got it pretty quick that time. Sometimes it takes quite a while, but the secret I've learned, I think my mom taught me, was just instead of cutting it straight across, you want to cut it at that angle this way, because then you're only working on getting one little piece side of that thread in, and then when it gets in, then it kind of pulls the other through. This one actually is probably a little bit shorter than I should have done it, but that's okay. When you start beading, this is called a peyote stitch. I learned this from a friend, Shane Ridley Stevens, who's a Shoshone Paiute native. I learned this when I was in high school up in Idaho back in the mid-1990s. Reached out and met him at a powwow, actually, and my first powwow, and I stayed in touch with him, and he helped me get some beadwork going. And so What you want to do is just start off by tying. When you do your first one, you tie the thread in to the starting point. I usually, those top 2 lines of sinew, I will kind of go in the middle of those and with my needle catch a little side of one side of the sinew, and then the other side of the other sinew, and then I pull that through and we'll tie a square knot, and then I leave a little bit extra in, because then as you beat around, that will just help secure it more and to kind of lock it all together a little bit better. But that first bead, you want to get a bunch of beads on your thread, and I usually will get it where it's almost about 3/4 of the way full. If you pull that around and get it tight, there'll be about, a full strand about 3/4 of the way. And then what you want to start doing after that is you go to the end next to the knot, you keep all your beads pushed around to the end of the knot, and I skip the first 2, and then I'll go into that third one. And so when I go all the way around, sometimes your beads will be off and you'll have to break 1 or 2, or hopefully you've put too many on and not enough beads on. If you haven't put enough beads on, you'll have to pull it all out and put more beads on and start over. But usually I try to get where I have to break 1 or 2 beads, just with the little needle nose pliers to get it so it's the right fit. That's easier than having to start all over. But once you do that, then you skip the first 2 beads, then you go in, so you go in that third bead and pull it, and you want to keep it tight, and then you skip a bead and then go in the next bead, and then it kind of gets, so that first time around is probably the hardest thing of bead making that I know anyway. And then it's just 1 bead at a time, and then when you end, you want to tie back into the sinew, and sometimes I'll go and try to run it up through some beads and stuff, or cut it off so it's going up through it. I left off all blacks of the last one. Usually after I finish, I'll try to tie another thread, so next time I'm ready to start beading again, I can just jump in and start going. And so especially when it's all the same color, it's a little bit, sometimes you have to go back through and count the beads and see where you're at, but I can see right here, this is I think where I left, let me see. Yeah, because there should be 2 beads. When you're looking up, there's kind of like 2 beads that are left, and this has 3, so I know right there. So I'm going to kind of, again, tie into the sinew. And I definitely don't pretend to be the expert beader. I don't know why I'm doing this class, but I think it's kind of fun. I'll do a square knot. I have about a little over 1 inch of my end that I'll tie it tight. So there's a square knot, and then you see this is the piece that will hang down, and the rest of the beads will go and get it from there. And then I'm gonna do some more black beads, and then I'm going to start pulling some reds out. This is I only really have one design. This is a design that I started years ago, and it's symbolic of a sunrise. And even of the Holt Hamilton Films logo, it's a sun rising over the mountains and bringing that light. And so and so it's the sun, those sun rays that start to flicker over the horizon and start to chase away the darkness and bring, new hope, bring newness of life, bring safety, peace, all those things that are symbolic of the sun. That sun returning to the earth to come and nourish the plants and to nourish us and nourish those things on the earth that we need to survive, and all those things. And so it's kind of become a special symbol that I like doing. It has a lot of meaning to me personally, spiritually, and so it's just something that I've created and enjoy doing. And this is the first beading I think I've done in probably 10 years, 15 years maybe. So not perfect, a little rusty, but still kind of there. Get a little bit going, and it kind of just falls back into knowing how to do. So I keep these. These are old film. If you ever knew what 35mm film was, these are just little film rolls that I kept years and years and years ago. I don't even know where you'd find these today. I get a few. I don't put it big. Sometimes when I'm sitting, I'll use this and have these sitting up here on this. And I don't put a ton of beads in it, because if it spills, you have less to pick up or less to lose. So now it's simply a matter of getting one bead on at a time. You're just going, so I started it, I've got one bead in, and you're just pulling it through. And then I'm right-handed, so I bead that way. I think if you're left-handed, you could, if you wanted to bead the other way. I'm looking at it going counterclockwise is how I turn, so, or to the right. I'm turning this to the right as I'm going through, but not sure if that makes a difference. So I'm gonna go around and do another row of black. So now it's just patient and one bead at a time going around and around and around. A lot of times to think. It's a great time to think about life and think about what you want to do or want to keep doing or stop doing or changes you want to make or goals and dreams. And so for this, a lot of times I'm thinking as I'm working on this is about the movie. Chance to maybe think about Daisy's character a little bit more, who she is. Maybe there's things in the script that I still to change or fix, or storyboards, or what's the history of this cane itself. This is a major piece in the movie. And so, the actor that plays Daisy, this is something that she's going to have with her majority of the film. And what meaning is that actor going to place into this and kind of make up and have with this, so when, that's going to help her performance be maybe a little more pure, a little more powerful, find a little bit more meaning as she's doing this. So yeah, this is something I wanted to do with this. I wanted beadwork, and if there was a time crunch, I'd probably find an expert, a master beader, and get them to do this for me, and probably be amazing artwork that they would do. But right now, not a lot of money, small budget, really, really small independent film. And I have time right now and can make the time to do this. This is just one more thing that I can use a little bit of time to invest in my project without losing or using any financial resources. So this will probably take 15 hours, 15 to 20 hours to do this. So yeah, it's a lot of time, but sometimes we have more time than money. So right now I'm counting my beads. I have 8 black that are in. So I'm gonna go around and keep going 8 black, and actually I have 9. I have 9 black. And when I go back around and I'll have 9, then that's when I'll start and I'll drop my first red bead. So I've heard people say before there's a lot of mathematics to this and stuff. I'm sure there is, but I guess I don't understand. If I had too much math in, I'd probably lose interest and want to do something more creative. So, but good to know. Just don't want to, even if I'm not exactly right on or whatever when I shoot over, it's not that big of a deal. Because right now I'm going to start every few, I'm going to drop a red ray, sun ray, that's slowly going to start breaking up this black sky, this blackness, and that little ray. Oops. Shot a few beads or lost a few. So small, hard to never find them all when you drop them. Okay, I've just made one complete pass. As you see, this can take quite a bit of time. Back to where I just started. The last one. So I'm thinking with the script, I may be losing a location by choice. Maybe trying to make the story a little more powerful, and I think maybe losing a location in this film will do that, along with helping the budget and just less shooting times we'll have to shoot. Some of those, there'll still be some of those same scenes, but I'll probably put them back in Daisy's house. The location I found for that is amazing. I'll probably put some of those out into the backyard, just because it's a beautiful location. Get us outside a little more in the film. Okay, I'm still hitting some 8s. See, already probably should add it about another foot on my thread. I'm sure there's tons of real beading videos out there that you can watch the masters and learn from the masters. In fact, I probably should try to find some of those and watch them myself. Definitely after a few hours of this, not doing it for a while, my hands will start cramping up just from being in positions you don't always have them, and especially my left hand is pretty much the entire time pulling this bead, pulling the thread, keeping it tight, keeping the beads nice and snug up against the next one, and so my left hand especially will get a little tight on things. Oh, I think I have one more, and then I think I can put my first red one on. Exciting. I'm gonna put my first red on the whole piece. I think I might just have one. So there's my one red. And I'll just keep working. I might do another 4 or 5 rows of black, and just with that one red coming down before it kind of breaks into the full sun. So that one ray of light battling the darkness. So I'm almost finished with my thread. You see it is getting shorter and shorter. I've probably went around 5 or 6 times now. My red, you can see my red is getting a little bit, a few more pieces added to it. The red really pops too on this black backdrop. I think I'm going to drop a few little white stars in this as well. I think I will. A couple more blacks. Exciting. Drop a first star into there. So it's not completely dark night. There is one star. Maybe it's the North Star that you can see out there. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll just leave the one star out there because it is an extremely dark night except for the one North Star. I know some people can probably sit and bead for hours and hours and hours and days, and for me, after I've done, ran through a couple of pieces of thread, spent 2 hours. If I hit more than 2, that's probably a lot, but about 2 hours of beading, I'm kind of done. Visually, kind of my eyes are ready for a little break. My hands probably ready for a break, and so I like that I'm not in a huge deadline to get this done as fast as I can. That there's some time to be diligent with it, but not excessive overkill. But yeah, to be diligent, make progress, even if it just did one piece of thread a day, that's 8 to 12 rows of beads, and not long after that you're gonna get done what you're trying to do. I always try to get one more bead in, then one more, then one more. Oh, I can just do one. Let me do 3 more, and you get to the point where I've got my thread too small, I can't tie it off as well. So That gives me some good length. So now I'm gonna basically go back through and try to go back in, and not necessarily need to tie a double knot or a square knot or so, but you want to keep it what you're doing, keeping it tight. So I do go back through, and I'll sometimes go back, and as you see, I'm going back through and beading, going back up the beads. And anytime you can get back through that sinew. And sometimes you draw a little blood, but that's when it's fun. Ow. Now I'm trying to force the needle through some beads. That's when it gets scary, because your needle's gonna break, or a bead's gonna break, and then who knows what's gonna break next. So try not to force your stuff too much. All right, better call that good. I'm gonna break something. Really as close as I can, because it's weaved back up through the beads, through some sinew, and back around, so it should do pretty good. I am going to, just to set myself up next time, I'm going to go through and get my next thread and stuff locked in, so I don't have to spend any time guessing where my bead should go, where I need to start my bead. And I'm going to leave. I like leaving beadwork with the needle about halfway in with a bead on it, so I know exactly what I was doing. Then I can still go back and pull this tight. When I start over again, I can pull this tight and start beading right back up. So there you have it. So that's where I'm at with the movie, doing the beadwork. I don't know how many writer, director, producers out there are doing their own beadwork on a major prop of the movie in their films. Whether that's a sign of pride or a sign of maybe I shouldn't have done it, I'm not sure which. I guess that's still to be determined. Hopefully it's just a step forward in getting this film made. So thanks for watching. Continue to follow the journey.